There is a fire burning inside your body right now. You cannot feel it. You cannot see it. Your doctor probably hasn't mentioned it, but it is there, and it has been burning for years. Scientists call it chronic inflammation. And after studying it for nearly 15 years in emergency medicine and preventive care, I can tell you this with complete certainty. Chronic inflammation is not a symptom, it is not a side effect, it is the root cause. The single biological condition sitting underneath heart disease, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, autoimmune conditions, accelerated aging, and at least 13 different types of cancer. If you have any of those conditions, or if you want to make sure you never do, this video is the most important one you will watch this year. Because certain foods do not just reduce inflammation, they shut it down at the molecular level. They cut off the fuel supply to cancer cells. They reverse damage that most doctors believe is permanent. And you can buy every single one of them at your grocery store today. In this video, I am going to show you exactly what chronic inflammation is, why it turns into cancer, and the 6 specific foods that clinical research shows can extinguish it, starting within 24 hours of your first dose. Hi, I'm Dr. Hale, emergency medicine physician and preventive care specialist. I make these videos because the research that should be in every doctor's office is sitting in journals that most people will never read. If you are not subscribed yet, hit that button right now. Free, 2 seconds, and it means you won't miss what's coming next. Here is what inflammation is supposed to do. You cut your finger, your immune system sends inflammatory cells rushing to the wound. They clean up the damage, fight potential infection, and kick off the repair process. Within days, the inflammation resolves, the wound heals, done. Think of it like a fire crew. They show up, put out the fire, clean up the damage, and go home. Perfect system. Chronic inflammation is what happens when that fire crew never goes home. They stay, day after day, week after week, year after year, and instead of protecting your tissue, they start damaging it. They release inflammatory chemicals that attack your blood vessel walls. They damage your DNA. They create the unstable cellular environment where cancer cells thrive. Here is the number that should alarm you. A study published in Nature Reviews found that chronic inflammation is directly involved in the development of over 50% of all deaths worldwide, not contributing, directly involved. Heart attacks, strokes, cancer, diabetes, kidney failure, Alzheimer's, all of them share one common underlying condition, that silent fire that never went out. Now here is the part most doctors never explain. Chronic inflammation and cancer are not just connected, they are in a direct biological relationship. Cancer cells do not just happen to appear in inflamed tissue, they are actively fed by it. Inflammatory chemicals called cytokines act as fertilizer for microscopic tumors. They stimulate blood vessel growth into tumors, the angiogenesis we have discussed before. They suppress the immune cells that would otherwise eliminate cancer cells before they grow. They create a biological environment where cancer can establish itself, multiply, and spread. Eliminate the inflammation, starve the cancer. That is not a metaphor, that is the mechanism, and these 6 foods execute it. Before the foods, you need to understand the 3 things driving chronic inflammation in most adults over 50. Number 1, gut permeability. When the gut barrier breaks down, as we discussed in the Akkermansia video, bacterial fragments leak into the bloodstream. Your immune system detects them as invaders and launches an inflammatory response. That response never fully resolves because the gut barrier never fully heals without intervention. This is the most common driver of chronic inflammation in adults, and almost nobody is addressing it. Number 2, visceral fat. We covered this in depth before. Visceral fat is not passive storage. It is an active inflammatory organ, releasing cytokines into your bloodstream around the clock. The more visceral fat you carry, the higher your baseline inflammatory state. This is why obesity and cancer risk are so directly connected. The fat itself is generating the inflammatory environment that feeds tumor growth. Number 3, oxidative stress. Every cell in your body produces reactive oxygen species as a byproduct of energy production. In small amounts, completely normal. But when antioxidant defenses are depleted, which happens progressively after 50, oxidative stress accumulates. It damages cell membranes, it damages DNA, and it triggers inflammatory cascades that compound the damage from the first 2 drivers. All 3 of these mechanisms are diet-driven, which means all 3 respond to diet. Starting with these 6 foods. Food number 1, extra virgin olive oil. 2 to 3 tablespoons daily. Olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal, and oleocanthal does something remarkable. It inhibits the exact same inflammatory enzymes, COX-1 and COX-2, that ibuprofen inhibits. The same enzymes, the same mechanism, but without the side effects of a pharmaceutical drug. Researchers at the Monell Chemical Senses Center in Philadelphia discovered this when they noticed that high-quality olive oil produces the same burning sensation at the back of the throat as ibuprofen. They traced it directly to oleocanthal. 2 tablespoons of high phenolic extra virgin olive oil delivers an anti-inflammatory effect equivalent to approximately 10% of a standard ibuprofen dose every single day, with every meal, but oleocanthal goes further than ibuprofen when it comes to cancer. It has been shown in laboratory studies at the Rutgers Cancer Institute to trigger a process called apoptosis, programmed cell death, specifically in cancer cells. Within 30 minutes of exposure to oleocanthal, cancer cells began dying. Healthy cells were completely unaffected. 2 to 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil daily. Cold-pressed, harvest date within the last 12 months. The peppery burn at the back of your throat when you swallow it is your confirmation that the oleocanthal is active. No burn means no oleocanthal means no anti-inflammatory effect. Use it as a finishing oil, salad dressing base, or drizzle over cooked food. Food number 2, fatty fish. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, 3 servings weekly. Omega-3 fatty acids are the most extensively studied natural anti-inflammatory compounds in existence, and the research on their specific relationship with cancer is extraordinary. Omega-3s work by shifting the balance between pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory signaling molecules in your body. They get incorporated into cell membranes and converted into compounds called resolvins and protectins, molecules that actively resolve inflammation rather than just suppressing it. This is a critical distinction. Most anti-inflammatory drugs block inflammation. Omega-3 derived resolvins actively clean it up and return tissue to baseline health. A meta-analysis combining data from 26 studies found that high omega-3 consumption was associated with a 14% lower risk of developing colorectal cancer. For breast cancer, a separate analysis of 21 studies found a 14% risk reduction in women with the highest omega-3 intake. The mechanism is direct. Omega-3s reduce the inflammatory cytokines that feed tumor growth and simultaneously activate the immune cells that eliminate cancer cells. 3 servings weekly. A 3-ounce serving of salmon delivers approximately 1,800 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA. Sardines, mackerel, herring, and anchovies are equally effective. If fish is not practical, an algae-based omega-3 supplement at 2,000 milligrams daily delivers equivalent anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer benefit. Food number 3, turmeric with black pepper. 1 teaspoon of turmeric plus a pinch of black pepper daily. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, is the most studied natural anti-inflammatory compound ever identified. Over 3,000 peer-reviewed studies, and the findings are consistent across all of them. Curcumin inhibits NF-κB, the master switch that controls the production of inflammatory cytokines throughout the body. When NF-κB is active, inflammation runs. When curcumin blocks it, the inflammatory cascade stops at the source, not at one cytokine, at the master regulator producing all of them. For cancer specifically, curcumin has been shown to inhibit tumor angiogenesis, induce apoptosis in cancer cells, and block the metastasis pathways that allow cancer to spread. A study from MD Anderson Cancer Center, one of the top cancer research institutions in the world, found that curcumin interfered with multiple molecular pathways involved in cancer cell survival simultaneously. The bioavailability problem is real. Curcumin is poorly absorbed on its own, but black pepper contains piperine, which increases curcumin absorption by 2,000%. That is not a typo, 2,000%. Always combine them. Always cook turmeric in a healthy fat, olive oil or coconut oil, as curcumin is fat-soluble and absorption increases dramatically with fat. Without the black pepper and fat, you are getting almost none of the benefit. Food number 4, broccoli sprouts. A quarter cup 3 to 4 times weekly. This is the food that surprises people most. Not mature broccoli. Broccoli sprouts, the 3 to 4 day old seedlings. Here is why they are on this list specifically. Broccoli sprouts contain sulforaphanate, concentrations up to 100 times higher than mature broccoli, and sulforaphan does something that almost nothing else in the dietary world can do. It activates the NRF2 pathway, the master switch for your body's own internal antioxidant production system. When NRF2 is switched on by sulforaphane, your cells produce massive increases in their own glutathione, superoxide dismutase, and catalase. These internal antioxidants neutralize the oxidative stress that drives the third inflammation pathway we discussed, from the inside, continuously, for 72 hours after a single serving. One serving of broccoli sprouts keeps your internal antioxidant defense elevated for 3 full days. For cancer, the research is direct. A study from Johns Hopkins University, where sulforaphane was first isolated, found that sulforaphane reduced the risk of developing bladder cancer by 39% in high-risk individuals. For breast cancer, a study from the University of Michigan found that sulforaphane targeted and eliminated cancer stem cells, the cells responsible for cancer recurrence after treatment, while for leaving healthy cells intact. Find broccoli sprouts in the produce section near other sprouts, or grow them at home in a jar in 4 days. One of the easiest and most cost-effective health interventions available. A quarter cup, 3 to 4 times weekly. Do not cook them above 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Sulforaphane degrades rapidly with heat. Eat them raw on salads, in sandwiches, or blended into smoothies. Food number 5, pomegranate. 4 ounces of pure juice or half a fresh pomegranate daily. We have covered pomegranate before for its effects on Akkermansia gut bacteria and zombie cell clearance. But its anti-inflammatory mechanism deserves specific attention in this context because it operates through a pathway that the other foods on this list do not touch. Pomegranate contains punicalagins, the most potent antioxidant compounds ever measured in any food. Their ORAC score, the standard measure of antioxidant activity, is 3 times higher than red wine and green tea combined. But antioxidant scores alone do not tell the whole story. Punicalagins specifically inhibit the production of inflammatory prostaglandins, lipid compounds that sustain and amplify chronic inflammation once it has been established. Most anti-inflammatory foods reduce the initiation of inflammation. Pomegranate reduces the amplification, cutting off the compounds that keep the fire burning once it has started. For cancer specifically, a study from the University of California found that pomegranate juice significantly inhibited the spread of prostate cancer cells and induced apoptosis in existing cancer cells. PSA doubling time, the rate at which prostate-specific antigen levels rise, a marker of prostate cancer progression, slowed dramatically in men consuming pomegranate juice daily. 4 ounces of pure pomegranate juice daily. Pure, not sweetened cocktail. Tart, not sweet. Or the seeds from half a fresh pomegranate. Consume it consistently. The anti-inflammatory effect is cumulative and builds over weeks of daily intake. Food number 6. Green tea, 3 cups daily. I keep returning to green tea across every video in this series because the research keeps returning to it. For inflammation and cancer specifically, the evidence is some of the most compelling in nutritional science. EGCG, the primary polyphenol in green tea, inhibits inflammation through 4 distinct simultaneous pathways. It blocks NF-κB like curcumin. It reduces COX-2 enzyme activity like oleocanthal. It inhibits inflammatory cytokine production directly, and it activates anti-inflammatory immune signaling through the IL-10 pathway. 4 different anti-inflammatory mechanisms from a single cup of tea. No pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory drug targets all 4 simultaneously. For cancer, a study following 68,000 women in China for over 10 years found that regular green tea drinkers had a 27% lower risk of colorectal cancer. For ovarian cancer, a separate study found a 46% risk reduction in women consuming green tea daily. The mechanism is the same across cancer types. EGCG cuts off tumor blood supply through angiogenesis inhibition, while simultaneously driving cancer cell apoptosis and reducing the inflammatory environment that allows tumors to grow. 3 cups daily. Water at 175 degrees, not boiling. No dairy milk. Fresh lemon juice, or 1 cup of matcha for 10 times the EGCG concentration. This is the simplest and most consistent anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer habit you can build. Here are the things from clinical practice that determine whether this protocol works or doesn't. First, the sugar problem. Sugar is the most powerful driver of chronic inflammation in the modern diet. It spikes insulin, drives visceral fat accumulation, feeds the gut dysbiosis that causes gut permeability, and directly activates NF-κB, the same inflammatory master switch that curcumin and EGCG are trying to block. You cannot out-eat a high-sugar diet with anti-inflammatory foods. Reduce refined sugar first. Everything else works dramatically better. Second, cooking oils matter enormously. Refined vegetable oils, corn oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, canola oil are extraordinarily high in omega-6 fatty acids that your body converts into pro-inflammatory compounds. The average American consumes a ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 of approximately 15 to 1. The anti-inflammatory target is 4 to 1 or lower. Replace refined vegetable oils with extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil. This single change shifts your fatty acid balance more powerfully than almost any supplement. Third, sleep is an anti-inflammatory intervention. During deep sleep, your body produces its highest levels of anti-inflammatory cytokines and its lowest levels of pro-inflammatory ones. Chronic sleep deprivation reverses this completely. Inflammatory markers rise dramatically after even one night of poor sleep. The foods in this protocol reduce inflammation. Sleep is what allows that reduction to consolidate and compound over time. Fourth, combine the foods strategically. Turmeric cooked in olive oil with black pepper delivers curcumin, oleocanthal, and piperine in a single dish, 3 anti-inflammatory mechanisms at once. Sardines on a salad with broccoli sprouts and olive oil dressing combines omega-3s, sulforaphane, and oleocanthal simultaneously. Green tea with lemon after a pomegranate juice combines EGCG and punicalagins for additive anti-cancer effect. Think about how to stack these foods in the same meal. Fifth, inflammation is measurable. Ask your doctor for a high-sensitivity CRP test, C-reactive protein, at your next appointment. It is a standard blood test that directly measures your systemic inflammatory burden. Get a baseline before implementing this protocol. Retest at 12 weeks. The research consistently shows significant CRP reductions within 8 to 12 weeks of consistent dietary anti-inflammatory intervention. Seeing that number drop is one of the most motivating pieces of feedback available. Here is what I want you to understand about chronic inflammation and cancer. You are not waiting to get sick. If you have chronic inflammation right now, and the majority of adults over 50 do, your body is already in the biological state that feeds cancer growth. The microscopic tumors that everyone develops as a normal part of aging are sitting in an environment that is actively feeding them rather than starving them. Every day you reduce inflammation is a day those microscopic tumors are being starved instead of fed. Every cup of green tea, every tablespoon of olive oil, every serving of fatty fish is cutting off the supply lines that cancer cells depend on. This is not prevention in some abstract future sense. This is active biological intervention happening right now in real time inside your body with every meal you choose. I have seen patients reduce their CRP from dangerously elevated levels to normal in 8 weeks through diet alone. I have seen early-stage metabolic disease reverse. I have seen patients come off medications their doctors said they would be on for life. Not because of a drug, because they changed what they ate every day. You have that same ability, starting today. Let's bring it together. Chronic inflammation is the root cause, sitting underneath heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and over half of all cancer deaths worldwide. It is driven by gut permeability, visceral fat, and oxidative stress, all 3 of which are directly influenced by what you eat. Cancer cells do not just occur in inflamed tissue, they are actively fed by it. Eliminate the inflammation, and you starve the cancer. The 6 foods that kill inflammation and starve cancer. Extra virgin olive oil for oleocanthal that blocks the same inflammatory enzymes as ibuprofen and triggers cancer cell apoptosis within 30 minutes. Fatty fish for omega-3s that produce resolvins and protectins, the compounds that actively resolve inflammation rather than just suppressing it. Turmeric with black pepper for curcumin that blocks NF-κB, the master switch controlling inflammatory cytokine production throughout the body. Broccoli sprouts for sulforaphane that activates your internal antioxidant defense system for 72 hours from a single serving and eliminates cancer stem cells. Pomegranate for punicalagins that cut off the amplification compounds, keeping chronic inflammation burning. And green tea for EGCG that simultaneously blocks 4 distinct inflammatory pathways and cuts off tumor blood supply. Reduce refined sugar. Replace vegetable oils with olive oil. Fix your sleep. Measure your CRP. Give this protocol 12 weeks. The fire can be put out. These are the tools to do it. If this video gave you something real, please subscribe and give it a like. 2 seconds. It is how this information reaches more people who need it. Next video I am covering microplastics, what they are doing inside your body right now, where they are accumulating, and the shockingly simple daily protocol that flushes them out. You are going to want to see that one. I will see you there.